All right, once again, let's give Ms. Stevens another round of applause. That was great. All right, moving right along, this next session will be on integrating physical and digital services to make government more efficient, secure, and trusted. Melissa Frye, VP of Program at GDIT, will be your moderator, and she'll be joined by Matthew Percival, Office Director for Diplomatic Security Service in the Office of Technology, Innovation, and Engineering at the Department of State. Let's give them a warm welcome to the stage. I also forgot to mention, it's not on the program, but Craig Vieth will also be their solutions expert at GDIT. I'm sorry, Craig. Let's give him a warm welcome as well.
All right, and Craig has a unique kind of perspective as well, so we'll go into that as we get into our conversation. But thank you for joining me on stage.
Thanks for
I'm
having
excited to have you all. We've worked alongside each other for a long time. So as I thought about this conversation and examined the topic, I think through today's modern government operations, and we're facing this unprecedented complexity where physical security and digital resilience are no longer separate, but they're deeply interconnected. And so in our world at State Department, and so that's where I will give you the little bit of background. I've had the pleasure of working with Matt for over a decade, and Craig as well, and they've worked with each other in the field as foreign service over the years, even longer than that. But Craig just recently joined GDIT, so he's gonna bring the perspective from both sides of the house for us to talk through. But we're talking from a State Department perspective, embassy protection, cyber threat detection, and the convergence of these capabilities and how critical it is to safeguarding our missions and earning public trust globally. So I'm thrilled to take some of our behind-the-scenes conversations out to the main stage, some of our execution anecdotes that we've been able to work on together over the years, and share how the State Department is breaking down those silos, leveraging automation, and driving innovation to build that security posture that's both strategic and proactive. So welcome, gentlemen. I will start with the foundational kind of element of how do we align physical and digital security strategies to create that unified risk posture that supports your mission globally. Matt, I'll start with you.
All right, thank you. Just to start out a bit, I'm a security engineering officer with the U.S. Department of State, so I'm a member of the Foreign Service. So half my career I've been spent overseas, working on anything from the barriers that defend us from terrorism to the systems that defend us on cybersecurity and espionage. So we have a very broad kind of responsibility within diplomatic security, protecting people, the information in those facilities. So as Dr. Fletcher kind of talked about, 190 countries, even here domestically, the mission is broad and the threats are, real, right? So what we do every day really does protect people. Talking 3 years ago or so, I was at a brew day with Craig Vieth, make a beer, and we're talking about all these kind of siloed ideas of risk and how it's all coming into us. And so when I'm working on a physical security issue, I talk to one group, and when I talk to cybersecurity, that's another group, right? This is all siloed coming in, and it's really kind of looking back to how counterterrorism, counter-espionage and other systems, how all those resources came at us over the last 20 years. So diplomatic security, our leadership at that time, we kind of proposed this idea of, let's bring all this together. At that time, it was a classified data lake. We worked closely with Dr. Fletcher's team, GDIT, the NSA, and kind of made this CSFC, Commercial Solutions for Classified, kind of architectured idea of how do you bring 190 countries of data back, integrated with all the risks that you're getting here. So that was kind of a data lake idea. Now with AI and everything that's come forward, we're looking at basically how do we make this generative? How do we make this predictive? How do we bring all these teams that are doing this great work, how do you bring them together and kind of deliver the risk information they need to make those decisions?
Yeah, I'll just jump in, and Matt and I got some really close, intimate interactions with our adversaries, whether it was overseas or escorting folks out of that are no longer embassies or consulates in the United States. Happy to share that story another time, but the thing that we saw in those adversaries is they don't think in silos, right? They have a unified response. They are very well tuned, and they don't care what the defense looks like. So I think we were sitting around talking about this, and we're like, hey, we have to break this down. We have to find a way that you can organize and defend and understand risk and give the right people the right tool at the right time to make the right decision. So I think that was a key piece in how we wanted to look at it, and I think we both had a pretty good passion for it, and that sort of permeated in all the different projects.
So building on that, Craig, talking about having things in their unique lane, at the State Department, as Dr. Fletcher alluded to, and you have as well, what are the biggest organizational or cultural barriers to this integration, and how can we accelerate innovation?
Yeah, this can be touchy in a way, but constructive debate. I've heard a lot about radical
candor.
Radical candor.
Yeah, operate that way at GDIT.
One thing at State Department that we both had is we had leaders that not only did they allow it, they demanded it. I remember a discussion after a meeting where I kind of held something back, and my boss came over that we both had, and he's like, why are you quiet? You need to bring up those topics and bring it to bear. And it was kind of the first time I had permission, and not just permission, but a requirement when I'm in that discussion that's maybe uncomfortable, but I got to bring it out. And I think that's key to innovation and to like breaking down barriers, especially if you're trying to innovate in sort of a over-constrained, highly governed process. You got to find a way to break through it. And I don't, I guess the best success Matt and I have had is sort of debating that on the periphery. It might not be in the actual boardroom, but you find a way to still kind of work through that, come up with solutions, compete them, and not be too tied personally to them, and just be okay with that process.
Yeah, and I mean, that speaks to the balance between diplomacy, which is the job, across the globe, and really getting things done. And so you do have to have that straightforward feedback and support from leadership to do so. Matt, how do you approach this with your teams?
Yeah, I would say, being a person just coming in, barging in, and saying, I'm going to reinvent how you do work has not really gone well. So, what we try to do in this case is, we have superb risk teams, right? They were actually saving people and protecting us. And I do not want to come in there and say, I'm going to revolutionize how you're doing work. Really what we're looking at is collaboration. And we come in, GDIT has recently helped us with our open source intelligence and other efforts. But basically coming into the room, bringing all these different, we call directorates, different groups within our bureau together, and then kind of saying holistically, showing them like, look, we're all using 73 different programs, contracts to do, the contracts or software to do the same thing, and then showing them how we're doing it, and then brainstorming, bringing in vendors, and really looking at how can we holistically approach this now has really worked well for us. So.
Yeah, and I think the CIO of CMS said it, but that collaboration and partnership with the systems integrator, it's not just our job to bring the shiny new AI tool or the shiny new object. It's our job to assess what you have as legacy systems, as different tools that you've already made an investment in, and then come up with the solution to bring it all together and overlay the technology that's necessary, not just bring in something new.
And I would say I'm on the cybersecurity side, so when we come in, we can basically say, look, we'll help you architect this, but we're also security experts, so they get a real good sense that their information is going to be secure, and we start with security first as we design these systems. So.
Yeah, and that leads into kind of that strategic advantage we talked about leading up to this, but you've emphasized turning risk management into a strategic advantage, and what does that look like in practice for you?
Yeah, so every morning my leadership gets together at 8 a.m. and they get some of the most challenging threats across the globe, right, from the IC, from everywhere, and they have to make risk-based decisions on that. So I have a colleague in the room, Brian Nahr, and others, but the idea that they sit there at that 8 a.m. meeting, and what we're building now will eventually replace all that threat information. It'll be right there for their eyes to see. Maybe it was compiled last night, and all these things are coming up. So real time. And so how do we basically, if we have an event overseas right now, and we're seeing like an uptick of our diplomats being attacked cyber-wise, right? But at the same time, we're seeing surveillance detection. They're seeing something happen around our embassy, right? We need all that information real time, quickly, to get to our threat or risk decision makers, right? And right now, there's a delay in that. So, accelerating how we get that risk information and improving that risk information is key.
And Craig, from the delivery side, what does it take to make that integration happen?
I think the challenge with a lot of the builders is, as we bring a lot of people in to help Department of State, it's translating the user experience. Really get the builders to understand, the people that are in that risk seat, but also the people that are at the edge, and be able to make sure that the thing that you're building is actually going to have effect on that decision in the moment that it's needed. It's really it's easy to say, and it's really hard to do well because of all the change issues. A lot of people just don't want to change how they do things. It's hard, and thinking, innovation often is, sort of the opposite of tranquility. And I think a lot of people like tranquility in what they're doing, and so when you're trying to change that landscape and have a strategic advantage, you got to kind of work through that.
Yeah, I think just the innovation cycle is not a comfortable place if you're doing it right. So the innovation cycle can, at least in my experience, it can be a really hard time, and it can be kind of spits people, chews them up and spits them out. It can be, and I think leadership is key in being able to help people work through that innovation cycle. Help them understand the user, help that their vision. It might not be that can be a challenge. So
It has to be a journey.
being able to persevere and be positive are all super important.
Yeah, set the leadership vision. I think Billy and Debbie said Sherpa people through the process when it's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You have to have the right people in place. So just to wrap up, you all. When I think about your careers and the uniqueness of foreign service and global diplomacy and the complex challenges you've seen out in the field, you mentioned even, drawing down from an embassy, that location, right? All of those complex challenges, what topic, relevant to this topic, what do you want this audience to take away?
Well, I would start with, in the foreign service, there's psychological counseling you go through where, you try not to change your job, you don't change major relationships, and you don't try and, you don't ever do these things in the same year. Typically, to have normal things, you don't want to do them. So in the foreign service, they're like, well, you guys do this every 3 years all the time. And I guess my point in all that is, the takeaway would be there's times when it's hard, and being okay with being uncomfortable is a skill that has a lot of value. And I think as you're trying to do change, and you're trying to change people's lives, it's key.
Yeah. And then from my side, I would say I kind of boiled it down to two things. It's number one is the team, right? And I think the teams that we built in Mexico, we have some really superb contracts that are well written, well executed, and our partners know our mission, right? Mm-hmm. And so we're able to scale those missions, and produce these challenges. That's the main thing.
Yeah, and having partnered for 13 years together, I think having the right contract in place that allows for flexibility as technology is moving, as priorities are changing, as new administration comes in, I think that's been something that together we've experienced a success on, having that flexibility. So, I just want to thank you for your valuable insights. It reinforces that security isn't just a technical change, but a strategic imperative. And I'm looking forward to continuing to innovate together. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Melissa.